Welcome everyone, and good morning or afternoon if you are East Coast like me. Welcome to Plaid's latest Tech Talk, Becoming a FinTech in 60 Days. Consider this our guide to building your digital business. To get started, and as a little bit of background of this Plaid Tech Talk series, we began this on the back of the changing financial services landscape. And over the past year, we've seen that digital finance is truly here to stay. And to draw your attention to one of the stats represented on this slide in the middle, today, 80% of Americans say that they can now manage their finances entirely without stepping into a physical bank branch. Over the past year, and given our position as Plaid in the ecosystem, we have leveraged this Tech Talk series to both collect and share a lot of these insights to ensure that everyone here can rise to the occasion of meeting these new consumer expectations and start taking advantage of these many new opportunities that we are now seeing as a result. These days, every company is becoming a fintech. And for some of you joining today, maybe that means starting to accept online payments or perhaps building a digital wallet. And for others, maybe that involves now offering point of sale financing or helping your end customers or your end users start to get a more holistic view of their finances. But first, there's a few foundational questions like, where do you start? How do you go about building it? How do I go about digitally transforming my business? And today we're going to take a closer look at what's involved in doing that and why that should matter to your business. So David, over to you to dive us a bit deeper into our agenda today.
Thanks, Kristen. So some of you here probably for one or multiple reasons, and maybe you've heard Plaid in the news, you've been following FinTech and you're interested to see what we're all about and what we've been up to. Perhaps you're specifically looking for an account connection or account verification solution, maybe an account funding solution if you're an actual bank or a neobank or a fintech startup. Perhaps you have an existing solution and you actually want to see how that contrasts with what Plaid can do. Perhaps you're looking to increase conversion or the consumer experience. Now, I can appreciate from the outside looking in, it was just about over a year ago today that I was on the outside looking in at Plaid and wondering how the technology all works. The stories seemed very exciting, but underneath the hood, I wasn't quite sure how complicated it is. We're here to demystify that today for you. In today's discussion, you'll be hearing about customers and different industries and the benefits that they've actually gotten from implementing Plaid technologies. We're going to be talking about things like 3x times the engagement after implementing Plaid within an application. Also increasing spend within an application by a factor of 5 just by implementing a use case in Plaid. Now today you're going to hear directly from individuals that work directly with our customers in terms of evaluating Plaid technologies as well as implementing directly during projects. Now just to introduce myself, my name is David Majetic, and I am a sales engineer on our enterprise sales team. I work with some of our largest enterprise customers in banks and helping them evaluate Plaid products and how they fit with their digital transformation initiatives.
And my name is Kristen Stewart, and I lead the implementation team here at Plaid, where our goal as a team is to help new customers onboard, launch, and grow successfully with Plaid. Before we dive in, do want to touch on just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Today during our discussion, please be sure to leverage the Q&A widget that's located at the bottom of your Zoom screen to ask us questions as we progress throughout the Tech Talk today. We do plan to leave around 10 minutes at the end of the chat to answer any live questions. Second, if you are not able to stick around for the entire hour today, we totally understand. We will be sharing a recording of today's Tech Talk following our discussion both via email and on our Plaid YouTube space. So please be sure to check it out, pass it along to your network and your colleagues who couldn't perhaps attend today. And with that, let's officially get started. So for some of you guys joining today who may not be as familiar with Plaid, what is Plaid? Plaid is a technology that makes it easy and secure for end users to connect their financial accounts to applications and services. Plaid is essentially providing a secure digital infrastructure for financial services companies. Our mission is to unlock financial freedom for everyone, and we are focused on lowering the barriers to entry in financial services by making it easier and safer to use financial data. Today, and represented on the left-hand side of this slide, Plaid securely connects today to more than 11,000 US financial institutions, as well as many more in the Canada, the UK, and the European Union geographies. And as a result of that connectivity, and moving to the right-hand side of this slide, we are thus able to power thousands of fintech applications. And today that number is at 4,500 and counting every single day. And that ecosystem that's represented on this slide that we've built translates into approximately 1 in every 3 US adults has connected a financial account to an application or service that is being powered by Plaid. So David, back to you to show the group who joined today what that exactly looks like.
So Kristen gave you a great overview of the Plaid platform and how it plays within our ecosystem. I'm going to give you an overview from the consumer experience. So essentially our customers' customers. These are the screens that you're going to see within the Plaid Link experience. Plaid Link is our front-end module that you can literally drop into any web or mobile application. As a matter of fact, right from our developer website, there's sample code that you can literally copy and paste right into your application with some modifications to get up and running. So taking a closer look at the Plaid Link experience, you would launch this experience within your application. So if you are a bank, you might have a button from within your onboarding process to say, click here to fund your newly opened bank account instantly. If you're an up and coming fintech that wants to transfer funds, you might have a similar experience, but the whole point is you launch it within a specific point in time or flow within your application. You have complete control as to actually how that happens. Now, taking a closer look at the screens, the first screen just is really transparent to the user that Plaid is involved within the account linking process. We want them to let them know that it's actually secure and private. If they have more questions, they can link directly to the Plaid privacy policy, read some information and return and complete the flow. After that, they would select their financial institution. Now, Plaid Link is built for conversion top of mind and reducing any friction that the end user might encounter. So what we'll do here is we'll populate the financial institutions that are most relevant based on the geographic location the user is accessing the application from. So if it's a super regional bank, perhaps that might be close to the top of the list. After that, they simply enter in their banking credentials. And as little as 7 seconds, we've successfully authenticated their account to Plaid. Now let's take a closer look at that experience here. And we'll just wait till this completes. We'll start from the top. There's the initial screen. User selects their bank, enters in their credentials. You're gonna be looking at a one-time passcode verification, which will pass through from the bank to keep the user within the Plaid Link experience. We'll also support any MFA questions or challenges, and that's it. They're instantly connected. So what happens on the back end after we've successfully connected Plaid Link on the front end? That essentially opens up programmatic access to your application in order to pull data directly from the source. Now, specifically today, we're focusing on account verification solutions, account funding solutions, essentially the pertinent information you need in order to complete an ACH transaction. Or I noticed today some of you are from Canada, so electronic funds transfers, getting the appropriate account information in order to be able to do that. And to do that, we'll leverage our auth endpoint, which if you're in the US, will return account and routing numbers in addition to the account name and the account type. So you'll be able to see which accounts are depository that you can surface to the users and which ones they actually want to select in order to perform a money transfer. If you're in Canada, account, transit and branch number, very similar and applicable. And I noticed some of you are within the UK, so there's some variances in how we support our customers in the UK, but definitely a growing business for Plaid there, and definitely support it. So I invite you to check out the website and figure out the geographic differences in terms of the solution. The next product I want to speak to as it relates to this use case is identity. That pulls the user's identity information directly from the linked bank account. So things like their full name, their mailing address, even email and phone number. So you can actually verify if that's the information that you have on file. And this will actually help you identify and mitigate any fraud risks. We also want to mitigate and reduce NSFs, or insufficient funds fees. And by doing that, prior to doing any money movement, we actually do want to do a real-time call out to balance to make sure that the user has appropriate funds before we go ahead and move any money. Now, this gathers all the necessary information that you need in order to complete an ACH transaction, or in Canada, electronic funds transfer, and you can use an ACH processor, of your type. We certainly have some that have integrations to Plaid within our ecosystem. So I invite you to check out plaid.com/partners to learn a little bit more about that. Now, Kristen's going to tell you about how some of these endpoints and products actually come to life and benefit our customers.
Thanks, David. So yes, to recap the discussion so far, we've talked through why you've potentially joined today. We've shown you what Plaid looks like and could potentially offer. Now let's dive into some real customers that have been able to capture that ROI and those benefits of Plaid in their businesses, their applications, and their services. And for today's Tech Talk, we've broken that up into 3 parts: acquisition, engagement and satisfaction, and LTV. Starting with Current. Current is a financial management platform that reflects how people earn, spend, and save their money today. Current prides themselves on providing a banking experience for modern, everyday life. The problem that Current was facing was microdeposits. Manual microdeposits at the time was the onboarding method or flow that Current was asking their end users to leverage in order to connect their bank accounts. Their end users were having to wait that standard 2 to 3 business days in order to both see and then come back and verify those tiny penny deposits. And as a result, that led to a bad experience, poor conversion rates, and fewer customers. As a solution, Plaid was thus introduced into their onboarding flow. And per Current, in their own words, Plaid Link has been able to connect their customers' outside bank accounts 250 times faster than their previous microdeposit flow. And as a result of that partnership, Current has seen 130% improvement in their overall conversion rate. Current is on a mission to help everybody, especially the underbanked, get better financial outcomes. And with this improved acquisition rate, have really continued to see steady and rapid growth over their time as a Plaid customer to date. Tying next into engagement and satisfaction with Capital. Capital is a mobile banking app that focuses on finding a path to money happiness by putting their end users' money goals front and center, and then helping them plan their spending, their savings, and their investings all around those said goals. The problem that Capital was trying to solve was needing consistent and reliable API connectivity to their members' bank accounts, while also protecting them from unwanted overdraft fees upon attempting to save and move money over to those end users' new Capital accounts. To solve that problem, Capital now leverages the Plaid Balance product, which David referenced, to run an account balance check before processing any of that actual money movement. And if they see in the endpoint, in the API response, that there's not enough money, then they don't initiate that transfer of funds. With Plaid, Capital has helped their users avoid more than $2.7 million in overdraft fees. And altogether, Capital has helped their members save more than $1 billion in savings. When Capital was able to deliver a better service and experience, Capital thus saw consistently from their members that they were more engaged, and that ultimately led to a higher NPS and satisfaction. And last but not least, Chime. Chime is a financial technology company founded on the premise that basic banking services should be helpful, they should be easy, and they should be free. Chime's mission is to help their end users achieve peace of mind with their money. More than 8 million people have already signed up for a Chime bank account, and that number is growing every single day. And the problem that Chime was trying to solve was finding a seamless digital onboarding experience to sustain that rapid growth that they were experiencing and are still experiencing today. Chime is one of our longest tenured Plaid customers, and throughout their journey with us, they have always stressed that that client onboarding experience and experience in general is paramount. With Plaid, we've been able to work together over the past 6-7 years on things like conversion and reducing friction as their end users navigate through that Plaid Link flow that David just walked you through. And through that partnership, Chime now has more digital users than some of the most sizable US banks today. Leveraging Plaid, Chime has been able to achieve that seamless experience, and users who fund their account with Plaid today are 3 times more likely to still be active on the Chime platform after that initial sign up and end up spending 5 times more money in their first 12 months on Chime from their Chime bank account. So we're talking essentially 5x revenue for any Plaid connected users to the Chime app. This has been a great win for Chime, not only for their LTV, but ultimately their bottom line. In summary, and to kind of wrap these 3 up, these are just a few examples that we wanted to highlight today, but passing it back to David to talk about other customers, other industries, and other verticals that you may not have even thought of yet.
Now you may be thinking the stories and case studies that Kristen shared are interesting and quite compelling, but it's not for me. It's not for my industry. It's not for my company size. The reality is Plaid is well represented across many different industries and company sizes. Here's just a few. Shift is a full suite concierge service on everything you need to do in order to list and sell your vehicle, as well as Carvana is an online marketplace where you can buy used vehicles. And they've essentially created new digital experiences on how to actually buy and sell vehicles. They've taken a process that really hasn't changed for many years and made it completely digital. And what they noticed when it came to payments, in terms of asking users to enter in bank account information manually, that's prone to error or they can't find because they don't have a checkbook lying around anymore. That experience is off brand with what they're trying to do. And it breaks kind of the user end-to-end digital experience. Perhaps the conversion wasn't quite there in terms of completing the process. And so implementing Plaid Link allowed them to eliminate that point of friction and deliver on their promise of an end-to-end digital flow. Even Outdoorsy. So Outdoorsy actually rents RVs. So if you're a rentee, you can pay the renter by linking your account with Plaid. All the way to real estate and rentals. So Canopy is a rental marketplace. And not only have they leveraged Plaid to link accounts for payments, they can use other attributes, from the bank account. So for example, if the user has a large balance, or if they see that the account has been open for a while, perhaps they can provide a better experience by, waiving the need to actually have a security deposit. So that's something we're thinking about. What other complementary endpoints in the Plaid product suite, once the account has been authenticated, how can you use those to provide a better experience or offer a differentiated service or product? Obligo is a security deposit service. Their onboarding process is now twice as fast thanks to leveraging Plaid Link in the account connection and linking flow. They're also 3 times less likely to incur NSF fees. And when that happens, obviously, everybody wins. But it doesn't just stop there. Myself working in the enterprise space, I've spoken to large insurers who are thinking about, linking accounts for insurance payment premiums, but also dispersing funds, for claims. And insurance, these are the kings and queens of paper. And they're leveraging Plaid now to maybe perhaps catch up to some of the digital experiences that they've created in mobile apps, but many things still left far behind. We even have farmers linking their bank accounts via Plaid Link to pay for really expensive and large farming equipment directly from the manufacturers. So, moving on, you might say, well, this is all really great and interesting, but I already have a solution in place. Well, of course you do. If you don't have a solution in place to kind of move money or transfer funds, you're not going to be in business very long. That's not what it's about. It's really about providing choice and providing options for the consumers, and they expect better experiences now more than ever. They're comparing to your application with any application they use, not just within your industry. That and ACH payments and instant account connection are becoming mainstream. As Kristen mentioned, 1 in every 3 US adults has verified and linked their account to some sort of application leveraging Plaid Link. Internet initiated payments for bills, account transfers, and other payments increased by 15% in 2020 alone. Contrasting that with ACH payments initiated by a paper check declined by more than 21%. So users who connect with Plaid obviously get more benefits, and so does your business. So Kristen's now going to break it down for you how you actually make this happen. So we talked about some of the benefits, how it's widely applicable across different industries. What are some of the benefits that you can potentially get from the solution? Let's go ahead and talk about how do we actually go about implementing.
Thanks, David. And yes, as the lead of the implementation team here at Plaid, and given the number of implementations and customers that we've seen and ultimately helped onboard to date, I can confirm and attest that integrating to Plaid is truly a light lift. For today's Tech Talk, I've broken it up into 3 key areas. 1, it only takes 2 sprints or less. And with the right resources and upfront planning, it is definitely possible to get up and running on Plaid in as little as 60 days. 2, we make it a light lift. We, as an implementation team here at Plaid, are your dedicated technical counterparts and SMEs. We know all of the ins and outs of Plaid, and from start to finish, we can help you plan, organize, and then execute on getting your use case up and running and successfully launched on Plaid. And then last, our resources. In addition to what is externally facing on our Plaid docs, which are fantastic, I highly encourage everyone joining today to go take a look at those. They're very easy to read and digest. We also have many other pieces of enablement and collateral internally, like integration guides, developer checklists, support enablement guides that will ensure all of your team members are educated on Plaid and ultimately set up for that long-term success. This next slide is just a continuation on that theme of as little as 60 days. And this slide represents a very, very high level project plan containing some of those implementation milestones that you and your teams could expect to then navigate through. So starting with the kickoff to the left, where we ensure that we really make proper introductions and establish those relationships with both your business and technical stakeholders, identifying your goals and objectives, and determine those success metrics. What is going to need to be evaluated and ultimately met upon integrating Plaid to ensure that you're successful. The middle section here that's represented is essentially where all of your development and testing work happens, leveraging our sandbox development and then ultimately our production environment, that progression, to ensure that what we build meets those goals and objectives that we've set out together in that kickoff meeting. And then these last 2 sections to the right, a bit of pre-launch due diligence, and this is key. As an implementation team, we want to make sure that we do an integration review together. You share with us your entire application outside of just the Plaid Link flow, so we can make sure that in preparation for putting your application or service externally facing to your users or customers, you guys are set up for success with that launch. David, passing it back to you to talk about the team that then goes behind a lot of this implementation work and milestones.
So these are the roles that we typically see once one of our customers embarks on implementing Plaid. Now, just note, this is really just a sample across all of our customers. We've definitely had fintechs that have implemented Plaid with just one resource. So for example, front and back end software engineers on the bottom of the list. That might be one person at a fintech who's versed in full stack web development, and they get it up and running within a matter of days, but all the way up into some of our banking use cases, there might be a little bit more roles and resources on the project. But this is really just some key responsibilities throughout the Plaid project that might be handled by one or more individuals. Obviously, we need a project manager to coordinate all the resources and timelines and making sure that we're hitting those key milestones outlined by both Plaid and the customer. A product manager or product owner is going to make key decisions on where within your customer journey or application experience Plaid Link is going to be embedded, the language you're going to use prior to launching Plaid Link, the products that you're going to initialize to pull data from. All of these kind of key decisions are typically made by the product manager and owner. And then also it's very common for a UI designer to create and socialize what that new Plaid Link experience is going to be across one or more applications. And just so everyone's aware, people like in the support organization, if a customer calls in and has questions, that these prototypes are kind of shared early and often, and any tweaks need to be made in terms of how the application redirects to Plaid Link and vice versa. So those are some of the typical roles. Now, we actually have a team here at Plaid to complement those roles in any Plaid project. So let's take a look at those. The first one at the top of the list would be the implementation manager. So this is that key resource that works on Kristen's team. That'll be your key point of contact and resource to lean on throughout the project. I want to make a note here that in terms of implementing Plaid, you saw how simple the front end module is, Plaid Link. We have a handful of API calls to support this use case. And we've done this sort of use case thousands of times. We bring those best practices directly into your project. There isn't a whole lot of variance on how that gets implemented. And so we can become really laser focused and raise any red flags that we see early and often to make sure that you can become a fintech within 60 days or less. Post go live, you'll actually have an account manager to keep you up to speed of all things Plaid, whether that's new API versions, whether that's new product offerings. They'll schedule a specific cadence to check in on you, to not only for you to learn about Plaid, but for the account manager to stay on top of your business and changing priorities in a changing landscape we find ourselves in today. A solutions engineer is kind of, you can think of them as kind of the technical resource that's aligned to the account manager. They can help you with developer topics like webhooks, authentication into financial institutions, how to secure information via our APIs, what are some best practices in terms of storing information, and then our customer support organization. You think about Plaid, you were built by developers and engineers for developers and engineers. So many developers don't want to talk to a human as they're evaluating technology. They'll just go ahead and sign up for API keys from our website. They might have some questions and they interact with their customer support organization directly through the developer dashboard and oftentimes get what they need. So it's not uncommon for a fintech company or a small, medium-sized company to call us up and say, we've done all the testing, we've got some remaining questions on how to get up and running with Plaid. There's some additional resources that you can find online or that our project team and account management will share with you throughout your Plaid journey. And that's just some of them listed at the bottom here. Personally, if you are API oriented, but not a developer yourself, I actually send out this no code testing guide that our customer engineering team has developed. It's really just a short guide and shows you how to kind of copy and paste some basic code, get up and running, Plaid Link on a test web page, be able to either connect to a test bank account or even your own personal account to see actually how that data looks like. And run some API calls via point and click. So feel free to grab my contact information towards the end of the webinar. I'm happy to send you that resource. It's a great way to start testing the service. We definitely stand by our product and encourage you to do so. So you might be saying, well, that all sounds great, but David, I am resource constrained. We have many competing priorities and projects right now. Perhaps this is best to visit in 2022 or beyond. And what we found is that Plaid is usually tied to some other higher initiative. So for example, it's not often looked at as a project in itself, but it's related to a wider initiative. Going back to my use case with Carvana, where they needed to digitize the end-to-end experience in terms of payments. Well, Plaid fit in nicely there. You might be thinking about re-architecting your customer onboarding experience, right? So part of that, if you're a bank, could be, what does that funding process look like? Are we going to continue with micro deposits and see that manual drop off in pain, or are we going to implement something in conjunction with this project to give us a lift? From a time to value perspective, I mean, you saw some of the results and metrics of our customers. I would challenge you to take a look at that and see what initiative that is tied to, because there might be some benefits that you're not receiving immediately. There could be new offerings or customer experiences that you can create. And we've demonstrated today that the lift is quick enough and light enough. But after we've actually implemented, Plaid Link, there's some tangential benefits in terms of what you can do from there. So I'm going to pass it over to Kristen. She can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, David. And for the engagements that have passed through the implementation team to date, we have seen that it is incredibly easy to capture that additional uplift post the initial onboarding and that Plaid integration. The incremental lift to add on new Plaid products or new Plaid features is incredibly smooth. And even adding on new teams or business units, perhaps they've taken notice of what you and your teams have stood up as a use case, and they're then looking to kind of take advantage. That is also very straightforward and can simply be accomplished by leveraging your Plaid dashboard. So confirming, once you do this initial Plaid Link implementation and have an understanding of the corresponding Plaid APIs and endpoints to leverage the products, we've seen that it's incredibly easy to thus accelerate other use cases in your business or your company.
And with any project, we have to keep, obviously, security and compliance top of mind. Just personally, in my role, I work with some of our largest enterprise customers who are obviously very security conscious, and even some of the top banks who are very conservative and very risk adverse. And I help them evaluate Plaid through all the pillars that you're seeing here. So we're well versed in this. We're built on the fundamental principle that consumers are in control of their own data. Control, security, and transparency are woven into the fabric of all of our products. We believe ultimately the consumer gets to decide how their data is shared and who it's shared with. We don't rent out or sell any attributes of the data that Plaid connects to as well. To find out more information, I invite you to visit our safety website, so plaid.com/safety. To learn more, and I'm happy to follow up with you individually if you have any specific questions or concerns. Kristen's going to now talk about how to get started, and then we'll follow up with our Q&A portion of the webinar.
Yep, we are nearing the end of our Tech Talk today, so thank you again for joining, and we'll get started on questions very shortly. But now as we're wrapping up, maybe you're now intrigued. Perhaps you want to take this back internally, discuss it with your colleagues and your team members. So what are some next steps? First, as David noted, implementing Plaid does not have to be seen as a standalone project. And oftentimes it fits incredibly well with an initiative or project that may already be in flight internally. So post today, we'd encourage you to go back and evaluate that and ask yourself if there are things internally where Plaid could potentially help to accelerate your digital transformation. 2, maybe you are already in talks with Plaid and have made that decision to get started. So for that scenario, please continue those discussions with your Plaid sales representative. And we as implementation, we will be on the lookout for you to get handed over to us, and we'll help you officially onboard and get up and running. And last, maybe you haven't started a conversation, but now you would like to. If you would like to start that conversation, contact us at info@plaid.com. David and I have also included our contact information below. We are more than happy to field any questions or requests. Contact us at our emails, drop us a line on LinkedIn, whatever your preference, and we will be more than happy to schedule a call or direct you to the right resource who will be able to support you. And with that, last reminder to leverage the Q&A widget. We've included a screenshot here for where that's located in your Zoom window today. David, while we collect questions, I know that we also had some pre-submitted ones. So maybe let's get started with one of those.
Absolutely. Looks like we'll have time for at least a few questions. This one would be good for you, Kristen. We have a question that states, what are the biggest challenges that might impact a customer's implementation timeline? We're claiming 60 days here, but obviously things happen in projects that might be beyond our control. Is there some things that we can allude to that will help them spot this ahead of time?
Yep, that's a really good question. I would say there's a few things. I think during and in preparation for that implementation kickoff call, it's important to do some proper planning and resourcing around the technical team members, the business team members, your designers, your support team members that are going to be necessary in order to successfully get your implementation complete and launched in production. So we partner with you to be able to help you identify that. David went through a few slides today, which give you a little bit of a foundation for who we would expect to be involved in that implementation, but we have seen that proper upfront resource planning definitely makes all the difference in the world, and having those resources ready to go to get their hands in and start building and testing on Plaid. The other thing that I would say is just being mindful of some of perhaps your customer side dependencies. David showed you, those two main components are front end UI module, Plaid Link, and then our back end kind of API and product endpoints that you'll leverage. So those are the components of Plaid, but you're building an entire application or service. So that is not the entire picture of perhaps what needs to, occur during that implementation phase. So being mindful of any, security or compliance reviews, which David talked about in terms of if you're a little bit of a larger enterprise space and are being mindful of risk and security. Another example that we've seen is being mindful of any restrictions around when you can promote code in order to not disrupt perhaps a use case or an application that's already live that you're looking to use Plaid to enhance. So maybe you've got restrictions in terms of when you can deploy code to your production environment and want to be mindful of that. So those are just a few things that we're mindful of, but I assure you, the Plaid implementation team, we've done it all. We've seen it all, so we would be more than happy to walk you through challenges as we ultimately come up on them.
Perfect. I got another one here that I think I can help answer. How long does it typically take to evaluate Plaid as a viable, solution? And I'll separate that out from actually selling and convincing people, right? So obviously in my space, we need to connect with multiple stakeholders, educate them what we're doing in the industry or customer success stories. But after all that's done, what we actually want to get to is for the customer to understand, not only just within Plaid, but within their own environment, how much of a lift that's going to be in terms of resource, coordination. And usually in about an hour call, specifically for the use case in question today, in terms of account authentication and verification, usually in about an hour, I can walk through all the ins and outs of the API calls. What are some of the best practices in terms of integrating Link? How do you track analytics in terms of actually what happened in Link? And what are some best practices of calling APIs and storing things like access tokens, etc. There's another question. Does the Plaid Link implement the transactions API, or is that a separate implementation? So great question. We didn't cover the transactions API in the highlighted products for this use case, but you're absolutely right. The Plaid Link module is the module that the end user needs to go through in order to activate most of our product endpoints. We have other products that are related to income verification and deposit switch. That still requires you to integrate Plaid Link, but the end user experience is a little bit different because you're actually connecting to payroll providers. So that's a great question. Kristen, another question, for you. It said from Kristen's timeline slide, what is the difference between live item testing and requesting access? How do I get live items before I request access? So I think that kind of alludes to our development environment and some of the things they can actually do before going live, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. So we have 3 environments that you're able to leverage at Plaid. All of them are easy to leverage and migrate through. There's no essential migration of code. It is simply leveraging your API and your keys and your secrets to thus swap those identifiers to then pivot your application throughout those different environments. So Sandbox, that is where, all of your initial testing can happen, during that pre-sales process where you're evaluating Plaid and your use case. Your next progression is then into your development environment. That is the environment where we provide you 100 free items to essentially call the API, leverage live credentials, and create real items for free. It's the same exact structure as what you'll find in the production environment, but the only difference is we will supply you with kind of that threshold of free items to ensure that you're able to test freely, obviously before any billing implications kick in. And then yes, the last environment, that's production. That is, again, same environment as development with all of those same API endpoints and call capabilities, but that is where you'll want to progress once you've fully vetted and tested your integration to be sure that you're ready to, launch into production, launch externally to your end users and customers, and then ultimately have those billing and finance charges kick in.
Absolutely. There's another question I can help answer. Question from Thomas. How can I decide whether to work directly with Plaid or instead work with one of your partners? So our partner ecosystem is very important to Plaid. We have a whole team and organization that's dedicated towards not only business development within partners, but managing our partners. Now, we have a number of different types of partners. We have partners that refer business to Plaid, where you contract directly to Plaid. We have partners that actually are a Plaid reseller in a solution that they have created. And then we also have implementation partners. So if you require additional assistance in terms of implementing live code or building some sort of application out with somebody who's knowledgeable in the Plaid APIs, Kristen and I can work with you directly to figure out where Plaid consulting or implementation services starts and ends, and then where an implementation partner, might assist you, as well. So for that, I'd recommend, reach out directly to Plaid. They will align you with an account executive who works with our partner organization, who can ultimately determine what is best, for the customer. There might be an existing relationship, with the partner. We're leveraging the partner's, paperwork, not to get into all the nitty-gritty details, might be a little bit easier and lighter lift from a process perspective. So there's a number of factors depending on the type of partner, but we're here to do what's best for the customer. There typically is no, conflict of interest there. We work really well with our partner ecosystem.
David, I collected one question that I think would be good for you. Can you talk through some of the things and perhaps challenges or just areas of extra scoping that you help customers go through during that pre-sales process?
Yeah, absolutely. Like one of the first questions that we get is, can I customize the Plaid Link experience according to my own, look and feel? And there's a number of factors why someone might, ask that. They've got branding guidelines, experience. They want to keep the user experience seamless from within their application to Plaid. But, on the flip side, on the counter to that, as we know, 1 in 3 US adults has connected their account leveraging the Plaid Link. So there's some brand familiarity here, as well. There's the ability to Plaid to support this process at scale and not every customer to have a one-off ad hoc implementation. there's a lot of engineering built in terms of making sure that we're optimized for conversion. And we see those detailed analytics and how we can further tweak our service and our Plaid Link module. So there is some customization there in terms of the initial text. If you want your application name to be there, you can change some of the background color that's superimposed on top of your web application and things like that. But for the majority is a pretty strong stance in terms of our transparency principle that the user needs to understand that it is Plaid that's going through the flow. And then like I'll draw a parallel a little bit from like a shopping cart experience, right? When someone's leveraging PayPal, for example, right? It's a great kind of analogy with Plaid. Of course, you're accepting payments a different method, but you may have an increase in conversion if you offer alternatives or an option like PayPal. And PayPal's proven to have a great checkout experience, although it's differently branded. You know, it's PayPal, it's linking from your app to PayPal and then, you know, back to your app. So we feel pretty strongly about that. But if there's any additional concerns or questions, you know, we're happy to kind of take them from our customers. Some of the customization and some of the things that we have on the roadmap offer a little bit more, you know, flexibility there as well. So we definitely don't make decisions in a vacuum, and we want to hear from our customers, you know, regarding all ideas from our product, whether that's Plaid Link or through our API or new initial product offerings, you know, that we haven't thought of yet either.
And then one more for me, David, for you. So we went through kind of our 3 customer stories. We've hit on a lot of, you know, metrics and uplifts on conversion and revenue and bottom line that customers have been able to achieve upon, you know, leveraging and integrating with Plaid. What if someone asked today, you know, like what's a realistic conversion uplift that I can look to achieve leveraging Plaid? What would be your answer around that?
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting question because ultimately what Plaid is doing is eliminating, you know, friction in order to collect information, collect it directly from the source, not having to enter it manually. That's kind of, you know, prone to error. So to the extent that we can reduce the friction, that is definitely there. But in terms of like overall conversion for your application in business, there has to be incentive for the user to actually want to sign up for your products or services and kind of complete the Plaid Link flow. I would look at it this way. It's really important to understand the current metrics that you have today. So for example, I work with a lot of banks who might verify bank accounts via manual micro deposit verifications, which require manual entry, which require the user to return several days later to verify amounts that have been deposited within their application. It's important to understand kind of your conversion rates based off your existing solution, and then take a look at Plaid and make a conservative hypothesis on what a potential uplift could be and what that could mean for your business. That's where I prefer to have kind of the conversations with our customers, and we kind of build that case, you know, together, as opposed to like, well, if you're not getting X% of conversion, then, you know, the whole project is not worth it. It's really about kind of like an uplift based on where you're currently at. So I guess that pretty much concludes the Q&A. I know there are some additional Q&As that, you know, we didn't get to. You know, we will definitely record those. Feel free to reach out to us and email us, you know, directly. We're happy to answer those. You know, check out our website, fill out a form. We definitely are going to have some follow-up sent out to you from the webinar, so you'll figure out actually as to who to get in touch with. The webinar, just a reminder again, will be recorded, and that recording will be sent out to you. So feel free to share with your colleagues or anyone you think might be relevant. Taking a look at some of the resources, highly recommend you to check out our website. You can easily, intuitively navigate towards the products that you're interested in, the use cases that they support. It's pretty easy to navigate, intuitive, not too much fluff to kind of navigate through. Sign up for API keys. This is where you would go if you actually wanted to test out the APIs yourself, if you're a developer, or if you wanted to leverage our famous no-code guide to getting started with the APIs. This is where you go to sign up for developer keys, where you can actually use test bank accounts as well as your own live bank account and see actually how the service works. And if you're like me and like watching videos to learn things, our YouTube channel has been a great resource for many. It's updated weekly, so feel free to check that out and of course, subscribe. And last but not least, I wanted to thank everybody for spending just almost an hour with us today, learning on how to become a fintech within 60 days. You can do it, and we're here to help. Thank you so much, and have a great day.